Hello and welcome to the shootout. We are 17 rounds through the regular season and it is a very warm welcome back to Tom Coolican, who's been over in New Zealand doing some scouting unofficially, maybe for Eastern Suburbs. What do you reckon, Coolo? How are you?
Yeah, I think the Eastern Suburbs beaches prefer the North Island, not the South Island, but had a beautiful time in Lake Wanaka. I wouldn't call it a holiday with 3 kids under 4, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, we missed you, Dan Parks. We must give a big thank you too for joining us last week. Did a great job, but it is great to have you back, Coolo. As always, let us know what you think of the shootout. Like, subscribe across YouTube, but we're also on Instagram, Coolo, so everyone can get around that. We're thrilled to be there.
Yeah, you've got to keep up with the kids on those socials. Please give us a follow. Nice to be on the channels.
Absolutely. No more shameless plugs for the rest of the show. Well, maybe not, but we'll see. Tonight's show, we have some great guests for you. Nick Champion de Crespigny returned to the Blue Crane Capital Shute Shield in a huge way, as we expected for a player of his calibre and quality. He will join us ahead of our match of the round this weekend, which is University hosting Eastwood. It is a 5:30 p.m. kickoff on 9gem and 9Now, following the Wallabies versus Japan. So a huge day of rugby. Get out to your clubs as well. They'll be having the game on in the clubhouse afterwards, and last chance, round 18, to get around that. We'll also be joined by Anthony Griffin, who's had a big season in charge of Eastwood as they head over to Sydney Uni. But Coolo, round 17 reviews. It was a belter of a round. You missed some great games. I know you've watched most of them since, but our match of the round, Eastern Suburbs 44, Sydney University 46. It had just about everything. We knew that Eastern Suburbs would be hungry out at Wallara, and they were. Just looking at the notes, Vailatu, the first try. He's been great since he joined this first grade side mid-season, started to get his opportunities, can sniff out a try. He's physical and abrasive. Sydney University came with a stacked lineup, though, and they were up for it. Flower Faingar scored the first try. Vakolo hit back. And there was some high-quality tries, some great scrum battles, a really big afternoon out at Wallara as well. It was Ladies' Day. Eastern Suburbs wearing those special jerseys. Dawkins with another try, continuing his great year. And then 2 of the young guns for Sydney University just about levelled it up. And it was a great battle. Ollie Schmood scored. Eamon Doyle scored as well. Henry James was kicking really nicely for Sydney University. He's done a great job coming in with Joey Fowler missing the past little while. We're expecting Joey Fowler to come back, so that'll be an interesting decision for Sydney University, how they manage that. But depth is good, and we know that Henry James is always going to step up and provide that level of quality. Teddy Wilson did what he does, sliced through a great try from him. And at halftime, it was 29-19 Sydney University trailing, 3 tries to Eastern Suburbs 4. And tit for tat, really, to start the second half. Vailatu scored early, then Ollie Harvey, who's been great, scored a try. Rian Lowry, one of our favourites, as everybody knows, scored another try for Eastern Suburbs. And 39-26 it was after Sid Harvey converted 5 from 7 off the tee for him at that point. And then Uni had 2 in a row. So Flower Faingar scored his second, and then Nick Champion de Crespigny scored on the end of a great piece of set play work, or not set play, but teamwork from Sydney University. And it was 41-40 after James converted, and then trading penalty goals. James, Harvey, James, and James after the bell to win it for Sydney University, 46-44. But it was a high-quality encounter, Coolo. Lots of points, as we know. The Wallara surface always provides that opportunity for those slick back lines. But 2 great forward packs, a lot of terrific collisions, some good chip, some good chat too, and 2 sides who we know plan on going deep into the finals. But a big win for University. Eastern Suburbs, second loss of the year, both to Sydney University. So John Manenti gets that over his protege as such in Ben Batcher and Jed Gillespie. But East look up the minor premiership with the bonus points. Can't wait for that to set the tone heading into the finals. But Gordon, 35, Warringah, 24, Coolo.
Yeah, I mean, last time these 2 sides met, it was very tight, 24-17. Victory to the Rats at Rat Park, both 2 very different sides now. It was a very emotional day for Gordon, marking the big freeze day for motor neuron disease. Ron Hopton, who was a very hard-edge hooker that I played against for the Gordon Highlanders, is my age. He's got 2 beautiful daughters currently. suffering that awful disease at the moment. So it's great for them to raise funds there. Tim Wedlock as well, former Gordon board member and first grader, died in a tragic car accident in Nashville, the week before. So there's a massive crowd down there at Chatswood Oval, but Gordon came out swinging, and in true Gordon style, a wonderful try there. Little grubber from Hardy, who found Connor Hickey against his old club, crashing over in that massive in goal that Gordon have leveraged all year. And then, again, off the back of a really dominant scrum from Connor Ferenissi that I thought was brilliant all game. Albert and Spinks sort of crashed over too. Just that front foot momentum that they were able to get off the set piece. The Ringer scrum has really been starting to struggle lately, and I thought the Gordon front row and tight five particularly did a brilliant job. Rats, obviously, without Wes Thomas, had a tragic incident last week. It's great to see him back on his feet. You can see they're a little bit flat. And when Gordon gets a tail up at home, they're really, really hard to stop. I think Sam G crashed over at one stage, but, Gordon at one stage were up 35-5, with 30 to go, and 2 late tries to Rima and a lovely try to Barnabas through a great line break from Rima. And, the Rats sort of came back into the game. But I think, 35-24, the scoreline flatters them. They were never really in the contest. They're looking flat. There's no Jackson Rapata, there's no Glenn Vi, who's no Ben Wood. They're missing that X factor out wide. They're probably short, a couple of big bodies in the tight five as well. We talked about how dominant that 4-pack was. Usher was brilliant. Tevals, scrummaging's gotten even better. Connor Ferenissi was absolutely brilliant, as we touched upon. The back row too, Basson, Hoare and Kelly. They've been brilliant all season, and they did a great job of nullifying that Ringer Rats back row. They've done a great job of contesting the breakdowns and slowing the ball down, on both sides all season. But look, the Rats probably have lost their mojo a little bit. They're limping into the finals. It's whether or not they can regroup and regather that momentum, which they should have that muscle memory and that confidence. But, it's never fun going to the season losing those 3 key backs. But Gordon, finding form the right part of the season, I think they'll be hard to stop, as they go forward versus Maui this week.
West Harbour 33, Hunter Wildfires 24. Another good win for West Harbour. It was a great start from Hunter, though. Almost scored on the right wing, except for a Hunter Hannaford try saver. Then scored soon after through Cullen Gray, who had shifted to fullback this week. Connor Winchester was back for his first game since round 2. It was a bit rusty early, but terrific to see him back out there. Jack Bennett continued his impressive few months in the competition and scored his 4th try since joining West Harbour, and it was 5-all at 10 minutes. And then it was quite bitsy for the next 10. Good contest, but plenty of errors and knock-ons in contact. Pete Summers showed it was all a bit like slow motion for him, and he picked off a pass and scored his 6th try of the year to help give the home side the lead. And great to see his son celebrating with him down there at Concord. And then it became a really fun game. Moses Jones was good. Phil Talaleva scored a lovely set-piece try from Hunter, who just haven't had any luck with continuity this year. But you put Hunter's best 23 against any side in the comp, and they are just about winning that, if not winning it the way they play and are coached. John Port scored a nice try from 13. Then Drew Sellers responded after some strong continuity and ball playing from Hannaford, McCooler and Aidan Wern. Bruising end to the first half with Hunter defending their own line really well, but numbers out wide for West Harbour, and McCooler levelled it at 24-24. Hannaford converted for a 2-point lead. The second half was a struggle. It was chippy, plenty of feeling, but no great execution. Hunter had some ascendancy, but couldn't capitalise, and Camore's leadership was huge, did well just to keep West Harbour in it. His scrummaging was great too, what he does around the park to keep them moving. Leadership and communication, as I touched on them. Phil Bradford came on in the 63rd minute. He was off 14 seconds later after a yellow card for a high tackle, and credit to them, they kept scrapping, but it was all a bit fractured. Reninga finished well to score in the 69th minute. Hannaford converted, and that was pretty much it. So credit to Hunter the way they are fighting it out, and credit too to West Harbour stringing some wins together late in the season. Kulo Norths 33 against Manly 26. Big win for Norths.
Yeah, I think when these last two sides met in round 2, it was a 24-all draw, and both sides were basically scoreless in the last 20 minutes. I think a 3-point score in the second half. So they were keen to improve on that Dow fixture. We've seen it really flat in all suburbs in round 15 and round 16 with bad losses to West and to Gordon, back to back. They had a massive win versus Hunter last week, and they came out of the gates hard, probably because they know they have to win, to keep their season alive. You could see, that importance of the game, was certainly on their shoulders. Josh Barr, who's been one of their best all season, was a lovely little right and left step, went straight through Joe Dillon to crash, find Nathan Russell, who crashed over. They went in again. Norse's lineout's been rocks and diamonds this season, very hot and cold, but Margan was brilliant. It was one of their best attacking and defensive against Cade Neville. That's tall timber. They really sort of went to the set piece with purpose and crashed over. Right there, 15 minutes in, North's up 14-0. And then on the stroke of half time, it was starting to look like Manly were getting some ascendancy. They scored a great try. And then after some great line speed from Marshall and Matry and from Nathan Russell, the ball was knocked loose and McIntosh scooped up on a loose ball and ran about 50 metres to score under the post against the run of play completely. And that's sort of when we've seen North at their best, with their defensive line speed, that pressure, that willingness to get off the line and win that contact. Same as we saw in that game versus June versus University, and they won under lights. And what was probably their best game of the season and their best victory of the season. That was a full stack University side as well, keeping in mind. We started to see that in the second half. They came out with more purpose and intent, but Billy Dickens said, no, not today. Crashing over the quick line out. You could hear Coach Beard's frustration through the sound mics and audio. 21 all with 12 minutes to go, and North looked really, really flat there. And then veteran play from George Thornton, big carry up to the middle. Nathan Russell with a quick play of the ball and was able to score. That really opened things up for them. First two times, either kicker missed the conversion. Will Kay missed his, and then also McIntosh missed his kick as well. Foliaki crashed over, finding Kafer. Critical kick was then missed, as I touched upon. Then finally, Mr. 150, Sam Kitchen, crashing over the rolling wall to put the game to bed in the last minute. Look, North's got it done in a very ugly fashion, but they'll take the win. I think they'll get through South with a bonus point this week, but they're probably going to be up against Eastern Suburbs in the first round of that finals. Even with a Max Bury, they're going to have to be a lot better than that, across the park. But we know Max Bury's with 20 or 30 points to them, so hopefully he suits up in that game. But they've got to get fast South this week first with a bonus point, and results will need to go their way with the University and an Eastwood game at 5:32. So they'll be watching that one closely after theirs, Will.
Certainly will. Eastwood 35, Southern Districts 33. An incredible clash between these two, and what was, we think, the last game at TG Milner. And Eastwood set the platform early with scrum dominance. Goddard obviously involved there, and a subsequent maul try through Xavier Dengai. He continues to impress. He's had an incredible season. We've loved what we've done. Know you're a big fan of him, Kulo. It's incredible to watch Will Goddard, though, turn his opponent and just keep rolling in the scrum. South's continued to show great intent, though. Their ball handling and support lines were good. Blaze Barnes and Struan Hutchinson provide great all-round games, and the forwards were working really hard again, including Jake Douglas, Mason Duke, who was playing at 7, and Callum Titherley. Dingai just keeps getting better, though. His all-round game was on show. I don't think we have a breakout player of the year. Maybe we should create one, Cooler, on the shootout, but he would be just about the clubhouse leader in that one, I reckon. Scored another great try on the back of a maul. Eastwood 14-0 after 16 minutes. South stayed positive, and try-scoring phenom Adam Arkley scored their first and his 5th of the season. On the back of some crisp and powerful forwards play. Jake Douglas has been enormous the past few weeks. Even looks like he's developing the start of a soon-to-be very impressive moustache as well. So he's adding that to his game. And on the back of that try, South's produced one of the tries of the season, genuinely. The 28th minute, you should watch it. It's off the kickoff, 95 metres. Half the team touches it, and Titherley is there to support to score. It's 14 all. Eastwood set piece helped them got 28-21. Another great team try for South soon after with Jude Hope to open the scoring. 15 minutes into the second half, and Souths were good. Radamai Tavuki Nipkins came on. He is brilliant as always. They had plenty of moments in which they looked like they could take the game or were going to take the game. But they just, like much of the year, have missed that something extra. Eastwood did a great job. The forwards stymied a lot of the momentum that South's built. Any opportunity South's gave them, either by a knock-on or a drop ball or something like that, Eastwood sort of capitalised just to slow it down. A killer miss, though, hitting the post on the conversion to try and level scores at 35 apiece in the 66th minute. Again, somewhat maybe symbolic of South's season, unfortunately, but brilliant. tough, determined, impressive, that extra something, just not sliding their way as Southern Districts. So a big opportunity for them at Tynan Motors Park at home at Foreshore this weekend to try and get their first win. Another 2, losing bonus point for South. They've been great, but Eastwood did what they did all year and just hung in there and found a way, playing the full 80 minutes. Coolo, the 2 Blues, 36, Randwick 54. The Galloping Greens continue to march on.
Yeah, finding form in the right part of the season. 90 points in this classic at Eric Tweedale Stadium there, and 21 points from Randwick in the last 6 minutes. I think the score might have changed, or the lead might have changed probably 3 or 4 times in the last 20 minutes. It was an absolute doozy. And, I don't think Randwick were under any illusions, of how tight this game was going to be. They won a very hard-fought battle, 33-25, a few rounds ago, and they knew it was going to be a tight physical contest. And James Hendren at 10, he's really added a lot of value to this side, and the chance in the midfield, playing that north-south rugby and allowing the backs to play, that Galloping Green style that we know so well. And I'm loving Rodney Iona at 12 with Sui at 10. It's just allowing him to play that second 5 role, that Aaron Major kind of second ball playing option, and adding a bit more width, getting Tetamaki on the outside, which has been really good to see. Wicks carry the gates hard. Love a good scoop from short. He found for now, looked back into Hendren, back on the inside, and then Johnny Tran crashed over for the first of his 2 tries. Sui then responded with a great rolling Moore. Then after Max Moore's try from a lovely offload from Isanai Sarani, I think we kind of got what I call into the Death Valley death spiral, which is the last thing you want to do with the Western Sydney 2 Blues side, which is where you go tick for tack, try for try. The 2 Blues with an 80-metre effort from Papa, crossing over for his second. There's a try for a loose kick-off. This is nightmare fuel for Coach Sean Byrne. And then Isanai Sarani yellow carded in the 27th minute. And then that's where I think Randwick really won the game. 13 minutes where they were able to hunker down and keep the score to 21-19 at half time. And had they let the 2 Blues into the game, it would have been good night nurse. Then the second half, after Hendren crashing over, things started to kind of, open up a little bit for the Randwick side. Malloy, found some space then, off a loose box kick. He found Hendren, I think scored his 3rd try there. Akiondo then crashed over against the run of play. I thought the Wicks were unlucky to break down for a call there. And then we talked about the Wicks kind of finding that second gear. 21 points in the last 6 minutes, a couple of 90-metre tries. Gage Phillips' one off a pass from Isanai Sarani, was absolutely brilliant. A real quality Randwick side that's finding form. But, we talked about, some of the players from this West Sydney 2 Blue side. They just couldn't quite do it for the 80. But, I think, we look at Rodney Iona, he's been brilliant. Papa was absolutely brilliant as well. Tetamaki was absolutely brilliant. Liam Lloyd ran a good line out as well. The scrum for the Wicks was just too good, and that was probably the real difference in that last 10, 15 minutes. Ascendancy at the set piece, which is where they've struggled. But a great battle from that West Sydney 2 Blues outfit, and great jerseys. That retro kit, long sleeves, tight shorts, all tucked in. A lot of great price about it. I want one. I will buy one. I just need to find one. So, yeah, now the 2 Blues wants to send me some details and some bank account details, I'm happy to transfer. That's some great kit.
Well, they've been selling them off, Coolo. We'll have to try and get on there quickly. They put the call out on social media, so we will get you onto the social media straight away after this. That is round 17. Just want to make mention the Ken Catchpole medal next week. Shute Shield Rookie of the Year, two very prestigious awards. We ran through the shortlists last week with Parksy, so if anyone's interested in that, make sure you check out last episode. We'll also put those chats up on socials for everyone too, now that we are on Instagram. But Coolo, turning our attention now to round 18, our match of the round is another cracker. Our match of the round in round 18 is Sydney University hosting Eastwood. It is a 5:30pm kickoff after the Wallabies, a huge day across the Nine Network and Stan Sport. And I'm very, very pleased to say we are joined by a star of Sydney University before he headed overseas with professional opportunities, but also a star in their win over Eastern Suburbs last weekend. Nick Champion de Crespigny joins us. Nick, hello, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
A delight of ours, and welcome back. How much did you enjoy being out there with Sydney Uni on the weekend?
Oh, mate, I absolutely loved it. I think, it's a pretty special team to play for, and I think, that rivalry sort of grown over the years against Eastern Suburbs. They've probably been the informed team over the last few years, so to sort of get the win with the boys was really special.
It seems like an interesting group, this Sydney University squad. A bit of rebuilding, a few players coming back from different phases of their career. What sort of group have you found it to be since rejoining them last week?
Mate, it's a special group. I think it's full of a lot of oddballs. I think we're all sort of quirky and weird in our own way. I think it sort of reminds me a little bit of when I was coming through. So looking at guys like Eamon Doyle, Joe Mangelsdorf, Ollie Harvey, guys with full of potential and full of work ethic and just want to get better. And, to have guys like Matt Phillip and Folau Faenga sort of filter in and provide that experience. It's a very special group. But, I think it's a group that are eager to do well and work hard and probably, get back to Sydney Uni where we sort of expect ourselves to be and want to be.
I think that's what the club's probably missed, and you certainly brought that last week. I've got to ask, first and foremost, what were you saying to Sid Harvey as you guys are walking off the field at half time?
I was just letting him know that, just letting him know I was there and I was hearing what he was saying from the wing and just reminding him if he comes in the middle, I'll be there also. So he can just, it was all friendly. All friendly.
Mate, I reckon they could hear you from Bondi Beach. There was a lot of lip. I thought it was brilliant. You won a premiership in 2018, 2019. You've touched upon, the old bull, young buck kind of, relationship. How does it feel being on the other side and mentoring these young players that are coming through and, and ensuring that they reach their potential?
Mate, I'm really enjoying it. I sort of, how to frame it is today I caught up with Nick Phibbs, and I remember when I was 19, 20 years old playing first grade and Nick Phibbs came back and how special it was to have him. And, I wouldn't put myself in the same calibre as Nick Phibbs, but to be able to come back and to assist guys and help out, I think it's an honour and something I love to do. And, you get back to club rugby where you truly developed your love of the game. And the thing is that, most of the Shute Shield clubs, everyone wants to be there. They make a decision to be there. And, I'm sitting there chatting to Paddy Tagg, who, side note, owns the Mavericks chicken down the road from Sydney University. But he was saying he was up at 4:30, 4 mornings of the week to go to the gym before work and then comes to training and gets home at, 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. And that's just dedication and, it breeds the love of the game and it makes me want to give back and be there also.
I think Max Bury says it's good for the soul.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us a bit about your kind of personal rugby journey, because I always love it when the Waratahs miss cattle that's right on their nose and head overseas. Tell us a bit about your experience, because it's a bit of a 180/360. I think it's fascinating. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, I think, I sort of grew up in Canberra and moved up to Sydney to, go to college and experience that all and sort of figured out that I didn't want to pursue rowing as a sport because it's lots of early mornings and I was having late nights, so it didn't really align. So I thought I'd play rugby for Sydney University and sort of a club that, aligned with sort of who I wanted to be. And then I sort of just figured out, I wanted to give rugby a crack and it was realistic. And, I spent a little bit of time at the Rebels and the Waratahs within training squads and never really had the opportunity to play. There were some really good players around. It just didn't really present itself. And then, I've been speaking to a few French clubs and Cast Olympic sort of came up and gave me a 1-year contract over there and sort of took it with both hands and ended up being there for about 3.5, 4 years. And then, I sort of come to a stage where you could sort of stay over there and continue to play rugby, but I was pretty passionate about coming back and, trying to fulfill a dream of playing for the Wallabies. And, was fortunate enough that Simon Cron gave me a call to come to the Western Force. And, the rest is a little bit of history. And it was a pretty whirlwind year last year, but I'm very grateful for it all.
Opportunities come in strange shapes and forms sometimes, don't they? How do you reflect on what you've been able to achieve, the path, as Coolo mentioned, that you took, and what do you think that suggests to some of the younger players coming through who might be just a little bit, not disheartened, but confused maybe about how they're going to get their crack?
Oh, it's funny you say that because, I speak to a lot of the young guys, especially at the Force or at Sydney University, and if they're going through a period of struggle where they're not getting picked or whatnot, and I just sort of touch on it that, my first professional full-time contract came at the age of 24. And that was probably a blessing for me because it sort of instilled in me the work ethic and the resilience of before. And I sort of was able to really grow out into sort of the player I wanted to be, that when the opportunity arose, I felt like I was able to take it with two hands. Because I sometimes feel like, young players can come in and get spat out quite quickly and, their careers are over within space for a year or two and they're still developing. I always think it was the perfect balance for me because it allowed me to gain, finish my studies, gain work experience outside, while also, enjoy being a young man in Sydney and playing at Sydney University. So while, I'd be remiss to say there wasn't times when I was overly frustrated and I was sick of waking up at 4:30 in the morning to gym and then work all day in the city and then come to training. I think it was a real blessing for me.
I completely agree. It gives you that perspective and gratitude, doesn't it? That'll serve you well in your career after sport, mate.
Yeah, I think so. And, it just allows you to sort of understand the highs and lows of the game. Rugby's not always going to be your best friend. Everyone's going to have their moment in the sun and you need to sort of just stay pretty level with it and just be consistent and, the cream will always rise to the top, I think.
Eastwood this weekend, they're playing for their season. They'll know what they need to do when the game kicks off at 5:30 after Northern Suburbs play earlier. It's a big forward pack. They play big minutes. They've got a great set piece. What do you know of this Eastwood side and what's the feeling like for Sydney Uni knowing the momentum and what's at stake?
I think, we really respect Eastwood. We've sort of previewed them and we've seen that they work really hard for each other and they'll stay in games. They've got a lot of threats in the backfield and out wide, but I think for us it's about continuing to build and stack moments. As we sort of had, Sydney University's had a few good wins over the last few weeks, but I don't think we've really put an 80-minute performance just yet. I even think last week we probably were shooting ourselves in the foot in the first half, allowing a lot of entries into our own end and not executing and transferring the pressure back. So I think, we're quite focused on nailing our own fundamentals and playing the game we want. And we think it will, hopefully put us in good stead.
It's a big month ahead. We know that you'd love to be getting a call to rejoin the Wallabies squad, a team you've captained over the past little while, which is worth us acknowledging and congratulating you on.
Mate. Yeah, thank you. No, it was very special.
You'll kick off with Sydney Uni after the Wallabies. We're calling it a double header on the 9 Network and Stan Sport this weekend. But what's your message to the rest of the Shute Shield about Sydney University over the next month?
Oh, I think our performances will speak for themselves. I think we're a team that's hungry to go deep into finals, and I think that I don't want to give the opposition too much ammunition. They've probably got enough ammunition as it is, but definitely respect us, and we hope to be there at the end.
Good luck this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. No doubt there'll be a trip or two over to Mavericks after the game, potentially on Saturday night, but good luck on Saturday. And again, thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
The other half of our match of the round is Eastwood, who are in 6th place on the ladder. They head to Sydney University, and I'm very pleased to say we are joined by their coach, Anthony Griffin. Anthony, hello. How are you?
How are you, Will?
Very well, thank you. Thanks so much for your time. Congratulations on the season you've had with this Eastwood side. How have you enjoyed 2026 at Eastwood?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been a great learning experience, for me personally. But the club, it's a wonderful club. It obviously got a great history and, some big things happening in the next 12 months as well. But the season, as I say, it's been so enjoyable. The playing group's fantastic. They've got everything out of themselves, up until now. And, looking forward to Saturday night.
How up for this occasion is this group? We know Norths are right on the heels. You'll know when you take the field against Sydney Uni what you need to do. But what's the feeling like within the group at the moment?
Yeah, it's really good. We haven't obviously over the last couple of months got the results that would have ensured we were in a better spot at the moment. But, they're a great bunch of boys, and I just can't fault their dedication and the way they show up every week. And we're in pretty good shape. We've got a couple, as every club has this time of year, a little bit busted, but we're looking forward to Saturday night, as I say.
We've spoken to Matty Gonzalez and Tom Goddard and a few other of your players. They've talked about this infamous preseason, regime that you brought in, and we've seen a lot of your forwards going 80 minutes week in, week out for the type 5. That's a massive shift. Tell us a little bit about the hard yards you guys did in December, January, February.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it was too bad, to be honest, but, to what I'm used to. But no, the boys, they really put in and, build as much as a physical foundation, I think a cultural foundation. And, they never shirked anything that was asked of them, and that's transferred through to, what we've done on the field this year. But I think, Tom, the biggest thing with any pre-season is, you've got to set your standards and the way you want to play. And our guys, really attacked it. It was fantastic. And with the forwards, we've got guys there that have got really big motors and can play long minutes. And I'm learning all the time about, the differences between obviously the two codes and the interchange and things like that. But to be honest, the guys you talk about, they haven't really given me a reason sometimes to take them off. Their performance is always at a high level. That, as I say, they've got, really high fitness levels, and I think it's been one of our strengths.
I think you touched upon it there, the transition between sort of league and union. And I've noticed that in the Eastwood side, that big win versus the Wicks after the bell early on in the season, the win versus University, you brought line speed and defence and a real willingness to win that collision, that contact. What has been sort of some of the other, I guess, adjustments that you've noticed and some other areas of where you've seen league brought in, into the union game, and there's been, quite a lot of benefit from that?
Yeah, well, the contact, as you say, is really important, particularly in rugby, because the spaces are, so small. In rugby league, you're 10 or 15 metres apart, before every play. And there's a lot more power on that, but it's not as combative and repetitive because, the big thing I've learned is, every play's live. The ball's live every time. You're either defending it or attacking with it. So, the physical side of things is important. The old saying in any code, whoever hits the hardest wins or gets the right to win. So we've built that over the year. We were a little bit loose at the breakdown at the start of the year, but I think we've built a really good standard in there. As far as the two codes, obviously technically there's a lot of differences about how you can carry the ball, how you need to win the ball, kicking games, things like that, which, I've really done a lot of work on myself to try and understand. But in defence, obviously the stuff you spoke about, line speed and contact, gives you the right to be dominant. And in attack, we've probably flattened up a little bit and, tested the opposition when we can, at the 10, 20, 30 area. And then that, for me, gives you the right then to do something else with the ball. But if you don't get that right and you don't have momentum, it's very, it's a different kettle of fish then to your attack.
I think we'll probably touch upon, the game this week, but I thought, give you the opportunity to kind of highlight any players in your side that has really kind of impressed you. We touched upon the big engines of the forward pack, but who's really stood out for you? You've been across both codes. You seem to be a student of the union game already. As you mentioned, I think there's a huge amount, that you brought from a league perspective, but you've obviously learnt the game quickly too. Who's impressing you, in this Eastwood side, week in, week out?
Oh, mate, I prefer not to, talk individually because, to be honest, I could probably take up, another 10 minutes. I think the main thing I've got out of, personally is with our playing group is just their willingness to, to work and to learn and they're genuinely, really good people. They're a pleasure to work with. And you judge a playing group on where they, I suppose, perform. When things aren't going their way, and because everyone can do it when it's easy. And at times this year when we've been challenged through our own fault, we've probably dropped our guard a bit here and there. They bounce right back and they. They play for each other and they don't let each other down. And out of that, the individual performances, come off the back of that type of attitude. And we've had, a number of, performances, consistent performances week in, week out by all of our players. And, talking about probably a squad of 25 or 30 that we've used. And I think that's the reason we're in the position we're in now is, we've had opportunities, I suppose, to make excuses or to drop off our form. But, we had a couple of tough weeks in the last month against the top three teams. But I think, that's just put us in really good stead for what we've got to do on Saturday night.
It's great hearing you speak about this group because we've loved watching them play and we see a lot of that individual effort and the character and the enthusiasm and just quality that is at Eastwood at the moment. I know you don't want to talk about individual players and that sort of thing, but I really do want to ask you about how much you've enjoyed coaching your son again because he's had a great year.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you had the opportunity to do this? Because we know how busy you've been coaching at a professional level in rugby league, but when was the last time you had the chance to do this and how much enjoyment have you got out of that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's enjoyable because I found it quite. I found it quite awkward. It's the first time, Will, that I've ever coached Angus, and to Angus's credit, when I got asked to do the job, he was the first guy I spoke to because I didn't want to get in his way. And make it awkward for him, but he was all in. The thing I like most about him is he doesn't talk football. He doesn't get involved in any type of conversation with me about the team other than when we're at training. He's just another person, and he calls me Hook at training, just like all the other boys. I think he does that on purpose again, so that I treat him just like everyone else, and which I do. I'm probably a little bit harder on him at times, but it's the first time we've worked together. Obviously, I've been to all of his games as he's come through, and he's done really well to get to where he is at the moment. So. Yeah, probably the last month or so is the most comfortable I've felt, in that situation. I found it, probably one of the, more difficult things to do at the start of the year.
Message to Eastwood fans and the Eastwood faithful. We know there was a special occasion at TG Milner last weekend, but it is a big occasion this Saturday as well, taking on Sydney Uni, who are flying, final spots on the line. What is the message to the Eastwood fans who are thinking about getting out or watching it on telly or just getting behind this group this weekend over the next month and also ahead of next year?
Yeah, well, be optimistic, be proud of your team. As I say, the boys to be in this position, we would have liked one or two more bonus points, but that wasn't to be. But we want to play finals, and that looked a long way away, probably 6 or 8 months ago. So they should be really proud of their team and proud of the performances that they've put in up until now. And Saturday night's just another extension of that, and I'm sure the boys are going to do everything they can to win the game.
We love what you've done on the park. Congratulations on the season so far, and good luck for what is left and still to come over the next month. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks very much, guys.
Round 18 of the Blue Crane Capital Shute Shield. Tom Coolican, our previews. And the match of the round, I said 9 Gem. It's actually on 9 go after the Wallabies, and 9 now and Stan Sport. So 9 go on Saturday. The match of the round, Sydney University hosting Eastwood, 5:30 p.m. following the Wallabies. It's a huge occasion. How do you see it?
Yeah, 4 hours of rugby. Nice to follow the Wallabies playing Japan in Townsville. Look, 4v6, it's a dead rubber game in many ways for Sydney University. It doesn't really change their season much, but for Eastwood, it's a must-win, and they probably need 1 bonus point, potentially 2, presuming that Norths win with a bonus point against Southern Districts out at Forshall Park, who are without a coach for next season and a winless this year. So Eastwood can control what they're going to control. 4 changes, though, for the Sydney University side. Falau Fing has been rested for Declan Moore. Eamon Doyle comes into the second row with Nathan Pinozo, who's out. Gives Sam Allsop the start in the back row. I don't think they lose much there. Matt Phillip is having a rest this week with Joe Mangelsdorf into the second row. That's a big change, and just probably resting those legs and allowing a bit of youth to kind of come in. It's a bit more of a mobile forward pack. Matt Phillips is a huge line-out general. We know what he does, but perhaps there's an opportunity here for the young players to show what they've learnt under Matt Phillip. And Mangelsdorf and Doyle will do a great job there in the second row. And Benji Jocelyn, the try scorer, I think it's 21 tries right now this season. He gets a rest this week too, well-earned rest with Hadley Tonga coming in. Eastwood, no changes there. It's usual suspects. Goddard, Legg, Stewart, Carmichael, Dengai, Griffin, Parsons. The guys that are playing 80 minutes week in, week out, they've been brilliant this season. Talking to Coach Anthony Griffin, what you see is what you get with the Eastwood pack. They're physical, they're abrasive, and they'll stitch it up to this uni side as long as they can. But I suspect there'll be some fresh legs on the bench from University. They'll come on with 20 to go, and they'll be too good. But Eastwood will put up a fight, and hopefully they can gather at least 1 bonus point and be with a chance, and perhaps results might go their way. And they'll know what they need to do because obviously they're playing at 5:30, as well. But Eastwood won this game in a tight game, a few weeks ago at TG Milner. I think University will be too strong, but with that key bench. But it's been a good season for Eastwood under Coach Anthony Griffin, and John Manenti at Sydney University has gotten hit in their strides at the right part of the season, and they've beaten Eastern Suburbs, the minor premiers, twice this year. And I think most sides will be trying to find a way. How can I not play Sydney University until the grand final? That's going to be the strategy.
Eastern Suburbs versus West Harbour at Wallara. A tough occasion for West Harbour to be getting Eastern Suburbs on the back of a loss, but you've touched on it really astutely a number of times through this season. The loss last year that Eastern Suburbs suffered and a bit of momentum that they copped as a result of that. But this one, I think, is going to be a chance for Eastern Suburbs to regroup. Similar sort of side, but Tom Cross comes in for Josh Boxer. Nick Cross comes in. Tom Girls at 5, Boxer at 4. Front row's the same. Similar as well across the back line. So we're seeing a lot of the same sort of faces. There's no Laha Korlaw. Andrew Smith will start. Nick Grigg in the centres. It's a great Eastern Suburbs lineup. For West Harbour, Jack Debrasini comes back in. So they've got stars, they've got strength, they've got a good forward pack. Jack Bennett's been great. The front row needs to be strong as well, or Iramescu and Kaloa Tangi. Rob Iramescu's been great in the back half of the season. Really keen to see Wern, Alcock and Samu take it to Eastern Suburbs, but the Beasties should be too strong and keen to rebound after that loss to Sydney University. Make sure they're going into finals with a win under their belt rather than 2 losses on the trot. A lot to like, though, about West Harbour's season, and they've played some good rugby, so I'm really keen to see them on the Astro and see how some of those backs can hopefully spread their wings a little bit more, but East should be too strong and a little bit too fired up. Manly versus Gordon Cooler.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game here. 3v9, wholesale changes for Manly. Their season's done. Sam Lane also no longer coaching next season. There's a change at tight end prop with Taolini coming in. Painter's coming in at the second row for Sion Hurley. Tiffin has come in for Masoli in the back row, and Condon is out with Destazo in at the back row as well. Then Taolima has come in as well for Gleeson at number 8. 4 changes in your 4-pack this time of the season. And then Drew is out with Ollie Horn coming in at fullback. So, look, wholesale changes for Manly after the disappointing loss to Norths, last week. Look, their season's done. That's another way of putting it. They're celebrating Mad Monday, regardless of what happens for this result or for other ones. Look, hot and cold season. They had a huge win, 19-11 against Sydney University early on in the season. It was a massive win for them. It's probably one of the bigger wins of the season for any team, knocking off University at home. And they've had bright spots. They just haven't really put together 80-minute performances week in, week out, which has been the challenge. But, Joe Dillon's been fantastic. Billy Dickens has been fantastic. Will Kay's been brilliant. Caden Neville for me. He's come back, the Wallaby, 9 caps or 8 caps for the Wallabies. He's come back. He's been absolute stalwart for Manly in that win versus West Harbour a couple of weeks ago. Gordon, there's 4 changes, Connor Ferranisi gets a well-earned rest with Wayne Borsak coming in. Trevor Hosea is out with Ronan Kelly coming into the back row and Campbell moving to the second row. Alberts is out with Harrison Goddard coming in. And then J.L. Bacon's out with Aaron Neville-Smith coming in. Look, Gordon, if they're able to win with a bonus point and then Randwick are able to beat Warringah, which is a significant chance, Gordon could jump into second place here, which means they'll probably end up playing Randwick and avoid playing Sydney University, which is what most sides want to do. So this is quite a big game here for Gordon. They want a bonus point, they want the win, and they want another result to go their way and jump into second place, which would be a huge opportunity for them. And with some right players and a bit of luck, and they're a chance here, Gordon, of somehow catapulting themselves in a little slipstream into the final. So keep an eye on this game. I think Gordon will probably do it by 30.
That's it, and that potential double chance as well. So huge clash, as they all are, in round 18 of the Blue Crane Capital Shute Shield. And also this one at Foreshore, Southern Districts taking on Northern Suburbs. My affinity and love of the way Southern Districts have gone about so much this year is known across this show. It's a tough one, though, for them again to take on Northern Suburbs when they have so much to play for. They head down to Tynan Motors Park at Souths, needing to win to keep their season alive and try and leapfrog Eastwood into 6th and play finals, which Zach Beer would be very determined to get this side up for. Souths, some great stalwarts of this season. Fuka Gibb and Arkley have been great in the front row. Some great names throughout the rest of the pack as well. Jonty Ravenhill's at 4. Jake Douglas has been massive the past few weeks. Titherley Duke and Leah Lysella Noah. And then Landon Walker and Blaze Barnes give them continuity in the halves. A few changes to the back line, but the most important of those is Radomite Tavuki Nipkins starting at fullback. He is as good as anyone in the competition on his day and provides so much for this Southern Districts side. It'll be interesting to see how they finish the season. They'll be up for it. Scott Faber moving on, but no doubt they'll be playing for him as well in round 18. For Norths, a lot of established names, as we see. Michael Scott starts with Brady Dawson either side of James Margan. That back row's good. Karapa, Lemaitre and Tungi Fulmaona, young, strong, mobile, good over the ball. McDonald provides good starch at 9, McIntosh at 10. Donnell's been terrific since coming in a few weeks ago for his debut. Russell, Circle Wilcox. It's a great Norths lineup and they have a lot to play for, so they definitely go in as favourites, but they will have to win this one against Souths, who will be determined to try and finish with a win. Randwick, Kulo versus Warringah. As you say, fascinating one. You'd think that Randwick should get the job done and Warringah maybe slip to 3rd.
Yeah, 5v2, and it's probably not coincidence that this is the best Randwick side that we've seen all season. 3 changes. Angus Houston comes in with Nowlan, who's out. Nick Chan's out with Tristan Riley starting outside centre. Jensen is out with Alex Malloy moving to the wing, and Andrew Kellaway comes in at fullback. So you've got Mitch Short, you've got James Hendren, you've got Tristan Riley, Andrew Kellaway in your back line. That's a Randwick side of old, and that's going to allow them to play the rugby, which we know they can play. And I love the combination of Johnny Chan, north-south, and Tristan Riley, outside centre. I think we're going to see a new Tristan Riley at the Brumbies next season. He's going to be brilliant. He'll have a breakout year. We've seen players grow a leg whenever they move down to Canberra along the Hume Highway. It's 4 changes for the Rats. Sam G's out with Uli Bale, who comes in at hooker. Portgita is out, Whitman moving into the second row, and Rory Sutter comes into the back row to make way for that. Archie Saunders comes in, massive in for Tristan Lepers. Saunders coached against him. He's a brilliant winger. He was critical in that 2024 first Colts premiership win for the Rats under Josh Holmes. He's been in the Australian Sevens program, the Waratahs age program. He's brilliant. LeBron Nyer's out with Tyson Davis coming in. It's a big loss. And Liam Coombs and Oscar Inaso swapping from 13 and 14. Not the changes you want, probably. 4 is probably 1 or 2 too many, but this is not the same Warringah side that we saw in that round 7, 22-21, when the Rats were denied a bonus point that could be critical for them for this week after the bell that, we know Josh Holmes was quite upset about. Look, I think Warringah are limping into the finals, and Randwick are getting back the right players at the right time. I think if the Warringah side, the breakdown, can't slow the ball down and make the breakdown an absolute dogfight, and the Wicks can get quick ball, they're going to put a score on, and a big score at a dry deck Coogee Oval, which always drains so well. And, that back three, they can run it from anywhere, and they'll play some really exciting rugby. And I think we'll probably see a Randwick side playing like how we used to see Warringah play when they had the Glenn Vaius, Jackson Rapadas, the Ben Woolets. And it's going to be probably a tough day for Warringah. It's been a long season for them. But they'll learn from this, and I think it'll be a tight game. But Randwick will probably be too good and too much firepower on this side. Will
Hunter Wildfires versus Western Sydney Two Blues at Passmore Oval up in Newcastle. This could be anything. I can't wait to see it. I think the ball's going to get thrown around. It's two big, abrasive, physical forward packs who love the collision, love to challenge for the ball. There are changes across both sides, which maybe water it down a tiny bit when these two sides are at full strength and they clash. It is a sight to behold. But Bradford starts at hooker, no Koiki Peterson to start. The two Talalavas in the side for Hunter are always well worth watching. Logan Love back in at 9. Winchester starts at 10. So that's a shift there as well. Porch at 13. Interesting to see him continue that. And Cullen Gray at fullback is another great young player in the Blue Crane capital, Shute Shield. For the Two Blues, we mentioned it earlier, Rod Yona at 12. You touched on that, Kulo. It's looking really good, in that partnership with Tetamaki provides great direction, physicality, and also decision-making. And Yona's been able to free up Tetamaki a little bit to just insert himself where he wants to and makes those decisions too. Smiler Akiong is on the left wing. He'll shift to fullback plenty of times, I would say, and the Suisues in the halves should control the game. If they turn up ready to play and looking to finish the season on the right note, the Two Blues should win this. Especially with the changes to Hunter. They just haven't had any continuity throughout 2026. But again, it really depends on how the Two Blues make that trip and how keen they are to finish well in 2026. But Kulo, round 18. I can't believe we're here. It is the final round of the regular season. It's been a brilliant season and some terrific clashes through round 18. We have the King Catchpole Medal next week. The Rookie of the Year will be announced there too. And then we are into finals. As always, thanks for your time, Kulo, and it's a big weekend ahead.
Absolutely. I can't recall a season where there are 4 to 5 sides that could generally win this comp on their day. And we've got sides going different ways with momentum, getting different players back. It's a genuine lottery. The next couple of weeks is going to be really interesting. There'll be a couple of major upsets, a couple of teams bundled out. Can't wait to watch these games. And there's so much rugby on TV at the moment as well. So looking forward to gluing into to rugby every Saturday.
Here, and of course, we've got plenty coming your way across the shootout in the finals, a couple of special little episodes too. So stick with us, and as always, thanks for joining us on the shootout.